Awesome. All right. So thank you guys for joining today. So this is Am I Ready for Transfer? Like I said, we're going to be sort of unpacking and figuring out what the transfer process looks like and see if you are ready to get started on that. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why you should be applying for financial aid if you haven't done so already. We're going to talk about when to apply for transfer, probably the biggest questions that you have, how to apply for transfer, where you can transfer in terms of what are your school choices, and then what do you need to do today, what do you need to do in fall, and what do you need to do this year to make sure that you are on track for transfer. So this workshop is perfect. So everyone who's in this workshop should have already decided on your major. You know what your major is, you know what you want to transfer with. You may have already some ideas about where you want to transfer. You may have already been like, well, I think I know I want to go to a CSU or a UC, or I think I want to go out of state. So you may have some ideas already. You should have at least 30 transferable units to be ready for transfer, because you'll be working on the rest of those units in your last year at LMC. But you should be sitting somewhere around that 30 mark, though you may be a little bit higher than that. Hopefully you are willing to put in the work and the time to be getting ready for your transfer. We want you to do some research and make sure that you're finding the best school and best program for yourself. So you're going to be doing a little bit of work on your part. And then, of course, I want you to be willing to ask questions. So if you have any questions about the transfer process or about today's workshop or about your individual situation, I would encourage you to ask those questions as we go through. All right, so we're just going to talk really quickly about financial aid. I just want to make sure that you know that you should be applying for financial aid, both at LMC and for your transfer school. So the FAFSA, the California Dream Act application, is available from October the 1st through March the 2nd. So we're starting to come up on that October 1st opening window. I encourage you to apply early. Some of the money that is available is on a first come, first served basis. So the earlier that you complete your FAFSA, your California Dream Act, the more likely you are to be able to take advantage of those funds. If this turns out to be your transfer year and you determine that you are going to be applying for transfer this year, it's important on your FAFSA and your California Dream Act that you include not only LMC, but all the schools that you decide that you're going to apply to. So if you decide that you're going to apply to 4 CSUs and 4 UCs and a private school and an out-of-state school, you're going to include all of those schools on your application for both FAFSA and for California Dream Act, so that way when you start acceptance letters, you are going to be able to receive your award letter at the same time. And that award letter is going to talk about what kind of loans that you might be responsible for, what financial aid you're going to be covered for, what scholarships you're going to be covered for, and so forth. So it's really important that you make sure that you get your application in early, and you make sure that you include all the schools that you're going to be applying to in terms of your transfer year, including LMC. All right. The other thing that you can start working on right now is looking for scholarships. So some of the applications, so for example, the UC application has scholarships actually built into the application. So if you decide to apply to a UC, you're going to have the option to select 16 different scholarships you will be evaluated for. So that's already built into it. And so that gives you some of the research done for you. The CSUs is not the same. Plus the fact that's not talking about the scholarships that are available on the LMC website. So I strongly encourage you to start with the LMC website. You want to look for more local scholarships. Reason being is usually those scholarships are earmarked for transfer or for community college students, usually Lewis McDonald's college students. And so you have a smaller applicant pool, so your chances of receiving those scholarships is quite a bit higher than if you are applying to like a big national scholarship. Also, a lot of these scholarships are tailored for our students, so you're more likely to be eligible for those scholarships. So I would start with the LMC scholarship page, then take a look at the schools that you're transferring to. So if you're applying to CSU institutions, you'll want to look on their school websites and see what scholarships are available for you there. Like I said, the UC application has a lot of those scholarship opportunities built into it. But if you're looking at private schools or out-of-state schools, you'll want to make sure that you go and do your research and find out about all the different scholarship opportunities that are available to you. Every year there is so much money that goes unclaimed in scholarship money because students just don't bother applying. Yes, you have to submit an application. Yes, sometimes you have to write an essay. Yes, it takes a little bit of extra work, but it's kind of free money. So I don't know about you, but I would do quite a bit for free money. And so the time that you put into researching the scholarships and put in the work to submit the applications is absolutely going to pay itself off in terms of helping to pay down your educational costs. The more money you get in grants and scholarships, the more money or the less money that you have to take out in student loans, which means that you're going to have less student debt by the time of completion. So put in the time, look for those scholarship opportunities and get your applications in. All right. In terms of your major, so like I said, I'm going to go with the assumption that all of you already know what your major is, and that's why you're here. If that's not the case, if you're still trying to narrow things down and you're still kind of deciding exactly what you want to do, I strongly encourage you to meet with a career counselor. We have a career counselor who works in our office. His name is Mark Isom, and you can make an appointment with him on our website. And he can kind of help you unpack it a little bit. So maybe you kind of know the general area, but you haven't narrowed down the specifics. So maybe you're like, I'm a business major, but I don't know what my concentration is going to be yet. He can kind of help you unpack that a little bit, talk about your different options that are available to you, and do that a little bit of exploring with that. You'll also want to do a little bit of research to figure out, maybe you know exactly what the career is that you want to do, but you don't know what are the different majors that can get you there. Because a lot of the time, it's not just one major that'll get you to one career option. There may be several different majors that could all get you into the same place. So you'll want to maybe do a little exploration, and Mark can help you with that as well, in terms of like, what are all the different majors that I could select, and maybe some that aren't impacted or as popular. They call them high impact majors. So you want to try to find some that are not in that high impact major realm, so that you can apply for those, because then your chances of being accepted are that much higher. And so you'll want to figure what those are, all that are going to get you to the same end game. So whatever your career option is, there's lots of different majors that can get you there, figuring out which are the ones that you want to apply to, and then which schools offer those majors. So like I said, yeah, looking for the ones that are not highly impacted and not competitive. So for example, if you're a psychology major, this is one of the most popular majors. Thousands of students are going to be applying to each school with that same major. Whereas if you say we're able to apply, say, cognitive science, which is very similar, has a lot of the same major preparation work and has a lot of the same career output results, this might be an option for you to look into as well. And then once you figure out exactly what your majors are and where you want to be applying, then you're going to figure out which schools offer those majors. And one of the great ways that you can do that is through something called TransferBound. So the TransferBound website is actually located on LMC's site. It used to be part of the Assist website. And then several years ago, they overhauled Assist. They got rid of this amazing option, and we were able to recreate it on our website. So TransferBound is a place where you can come to explore and figure out what schools offer my major. So for example, say I said, I maybe want to be a business major. I can come in and click on business, and then I can go and do a search. And if I'm still like, I don't really know exactly what I want to do with business, I could choose business administration. And what this is going to do is it's going to show me all the different business programs that are available, as well as all of their different concentrations. And you can see there's a lot of different concentrations, and all of those are just at CSU Fullerton. So each school is going to have a different set of concentrations. Some are just going to be strictly business administration. And these are all the different CSUs that offer this major, and UCs as well. And then other ones are going to look more at the concentration. So this website is going to show you the majors at any of the CSUs and UC campuses. So if you are looking at a private school or an out-of-state institution, those will not be listed on here. This speaks with the Assist website, and so it's only going to show you the CSUs and UCs. But this would be a great way to kind of figure out, if you're like, okay, I'm on a business administration major, which CSUs and which UCs can I apply to? This would be able to help you figure that information out. All right, let's go back. So in terms of figuring out what those options are, you are going to need to know by the time you are submitting your applications, are you looking at UCs? Are you looking at CSUs? Are you looking at in-state private institutions? Are you looking at out-of-state schools, or are you looking at all of the above, or a combination of the above? We always encourage students to apply broadly. You don't want to just apply to one school and put all your eggs in that one basket, if you can afford to apply to many different schools. If you are eligible for the fee waiver, so if you are an EOPS student, or if through the application it's determines that you are eligible for the fee waiver, it's just based on your income and your financial statement. If you are eligible for the fee waiver, you get 4 free UC applications and 4 free CSU applications. So that's 8 schools that you could be applying to, all for free. Private schools sometimes will offer fee waivers as well. So you can reach out to the individual private institution and ask them if they offer a fee waiver. And then out-of-state schools, again, it may be possible. You would need to reach out to the school to find out if they offer a fee waiver or not. A lot of the time it is, again, based off of income. So these are your basic options. So the UCs, you have 9 UCs within the state of California that offer undergraduate education. You have 23 CSUs, ranging all the way up from in Eureka all the way down to San Diego. So lots of variety there. In-state private schools, hundreds, and out-of-state private and public institutions, thousands. So there is no shortage of opportunities for you there. So how do you decide? So once you figure out what your major is and what schools offer your major, how do you decide which school is the right fit for you? There's a lot of different factors that are going to come into play with this. Of course, the first one being, does the school offer my major? That's going to be your number one thing that you're going to start with. A lot of students will then look at whether or not they can afford to go to the institution. And if we go back to the first slide, which was talking about financial aid, making sure you're completing your FAFSA, your California Dream Act, applying for all those scholarships, then hopefully the answer is yes. Every institution is going to have different tuition costs, and depending on how much financial aid and how much scholarships money you acquire will determine what your actual cost of attendance will be. So a lot of in-state private institutions will offer transfer scholarships. So for example, one of our partners that we work with is Holy Names University. So a lot of our students who are going through nursing will apply for Holy Names, and they offer a really great transfer scholarship for our students. A lot of students, when they apply to the UCs, they may be eligible for the Blue and Gold Scholarship. This is done through the application. As you're completing your application, you will be evaluated for the Blue and Gold Scholarship as long as you have your FAFSA or your California Dream Act on file, and they will determine whether or not you're eligible for the Blue and Gold Scholarship. And if you are, it's a free ride through the UC system. But every UC and every CSU calculates things a little bit differently. There's different grant money and scholarship money available at each campus. So you may get a better coverage at one UC as opposed to a different UC. And you may find that you have better coverage at a CSU or a UC versus a UC or vice versa. So it's really important that you kind of do your research, apply to as many different schools. And then, like I said, in the spring, when you start getting your acceptance letters from all the different campuses that you've applied to, you'll also receive your award letters, which you'll be able to look at that time and make your decision about where you want to go to school based on the amount of aid that you're going to be receiving. And then the third part of sort of the technical side of it is are you eligible for that school? And this really comes down to, have you completed your general education requirements and your major preparation requirements? Have you completed the 60 units for transfer if you're looking at a CSU or a UC? That's where all of that comes in. And we're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides. For me, the next three questions are really more about sort of the personal side of this decision. And this is usually where I will start talking about going on campus tours. So normally in our department, we offer university tours. We usually do about 12 of them a year. Unfortunately, with COVID, we have been unable to accommodate those tours the last 2 years. But if you have an opportunity to go on a private tour and you're able to visit some campuses, I strongly encourage you to do so. Setting foot on a campus is the best way to determine whether or not that campus is right for you. So like I mentioned, there are 9 undergraduate UC campuses, 23 CSU campuses, and as you can imagine, every single one of those campuses is different. So you could visit UC Berkeley and you could visit UC Merced, and they have there's almost nothing in common about them. They feel so different. They're located in different parts of the state. They have a different vibe to them, a different student population, different size. Everything about them is going to have a different feeling. Same thing if I were going to go to visit CSU LA, or if I was going to go to Sacramento State. Again, they're going to have different size of campus, different student population, different focus. So it's really important that you try to visit as many campuses as you can to learn whether or not this is going to be the right fit for you. So what I usually encourage students to do while they are on that campus is something that we like to refer to as the bench test. So the bench test is basically an opportunity to go to the campus, you walk into the middle of the campus, you sit down on a bench and you look around and you absorb the vibe of that campus. And you think, am I connecting with the people that are here? Am I interested in the programs and the resources and the support services that are available here? Do I require childcare? Do I want veteran services? What kind of transfer support services do they have available for their students? Is it a big campus? Is it a small campus? Is it in a city? Is it close to the beach? There are so many differences in each of these campuses. And so until you actually set foot on the campus and spend some time in the campus, you're not really going to know what that campus feels like and which ones are going to be a good match for you and which ones aren't. So do I like where it's located? And am I interested in all the different things that are happening on the campus? So if you have that opportunity to do so, I would strongly encourage you to visit as many campuses as you can, each school that you're interested in and that you're considering. Spend some time on that campus. A lot of them will do private tours as well. Some of them are doing video tours. So you can actually do like a virtual tour and visit the campus if you are unable to travel. But spend some time at each campus, do your research, spend some time on their social media, spend some time on their website, see what their students are saying, find somebody who went to that school, ask them some questions about it. There's a lot of different resources available out there for you to be able to learn about these different campuses and figure out which one is going to be the right one for you. Choosing the right college is a very personal choice. So you want to make sure you pick the one that's going to help you thrive and make the most of your time, because you really only kind of get to do this once. So you really want it to be the best experience possible. Do I have any questions so far?
Do you know what like the application process is like?
That's coming up soon. Yep, don't worry, we're getting there. Yep. All right, perfect. All right, well, let's jump ahead and talk a little bit more. So transfer pathways are some ways to sort of make things a little bit simpler in terms of what the transfer process looks like. You may have heard about TAG, or the UC TAG, or the Transfer Admission Guarantee. This is offered by 6 of the 9 of those UC campuses that we were talking about. So UC Santa Cruz, Riverside, Irvine, Merced, Davis, and Santa Barbara all offer a TAG. And this, again, is called a Transfer Admission Guarantee. So if you meet certain qualifications, have a certain GPA, have a certain number of units, and submit your application during the month of September, which is now, and you are deemed eligible for a TAG, that guarantees you placement on that UC campus. So you can only tag to one school, so you're only going to submit one application. It's free. There's no reason not to. But if you have more questions about that, we do offer some TAG workshops, and you can go to one of those workshops and learn a little bit more about the TAG program. A lot of our private schools and the HBCUs also offer transfer pathways. Sometimes these are contracts that are in place. Sometimes these are like if you complete an associate degree for transfer, an ADT, you may also refer to them as AATs or ASTs. If you complete one of these, then this is going to guarantee you a place at one of our HBCU campuses, the historically Black colleges and universities. And also a lot of our private institutions are now also recognizing ADTs in terms of being completion of all undergraduate requirements in terms of your first 2 years. So that way you come in at junior level and you'll be able to complete your degree in 60 units as well. So there's a lot of different opportunities there to be able to simplify the process of what that looks like. So how do I know if I'm ready in terms of my coursework? So your coursework, like I said, if you're looking at a CSU and UC, most of the time you are looking at this number of 60. You need 60 transferable units. If you're looking at UCs, those are 60 UC transferable units. If you're looking at a CSU, those are 60 CSU transferable units. Most of the time, those units are the same, but there are some classes that are accepted by the CSUs that are not accepted by the UC. For example, cooperative work experience, if you are completing that class or have completed that class, it is CSU transferable, but it's not UC transferable. So you'll want to make sure that you have all your units intact. And again, these 60 transferable units need to be completed by the end of the spring of the year you plan to transfer. So if that means you are trying to transfer next fall, if you determine, okay, I'm going to have all of my 60 units done by the end of this academic year, so by the end of spring of 2022, I want to start at my new campus in spring of 2020 and fall of 2022, that means you're going to be submitting your applications this fall and fall of 2021. You actually apply a year in advance. So you want to make sure you have those 60 units done by the end of the spring term that you're looking to transfer. So you don't need to have those 60 units right now. Like I said, even if you're somewhere around the 30 to 45 unit mark, it's possible if you are a full-time student that you might be able to complete those 60 units by the end of the spring term and then start at your new institution in the fall. Those 60 units are going to be broken down a little bit differently, possibly for each of you, depending on what your major is and where you're looking to transfer. Basically, these 60 units is going to be broken down into general education requirements. Often you'll hear people talk about CSUGE or IGETC. These are two general education patterns that students will often follow. CSUGE is specifically for the CSUs, and IGETC is a general education pattern that can be followed for both CSUs and UCs, and even some private institutions as well. The CSUs are looking for completion of the Golden Four, which is your English and your math and so forth, and your speech and so forth. Whereas with UCs, they don't always necessarily require IGETC unless you're applying to Berkeley, but you do have to have a general education pattern, and it's called the 7 course breadth. And so there's 7 courses that you have to have completed to be eligible for transfer. But a lot of students will just follow one of these general education patterns to simplify things, to be really clear. Also, then you can put in for certification saying I have completed IGETC or I have completed CSUGE, get certified in those, and that helps to make things really clear in terms of your transfer. So in general education, you're going to be completing your general education coursework, making sure that you've got everything done by the end of spring of the year you're transferring. And then you have your major preparation work as well. So each of you possibly may have a different major. So depending on what your major is, there are certain classes that you need to complete that would make you eligible for transfer. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So usually students will then say, okay, well, how do I know which classes I need to take? So it really does depend. It depends on where you're transferring. It depends on what your major is. It depends if you're you're planning to tag to a UC or not. So it's really important that you work with your counselor to determine what classes that you need and when you need to take them. So some of them may need to be done sequentially, and some of them need to be done at different times. If you're trying to figure out what your major prep might look like and what classes you might need, one way that you can do that is Assist. And I've kind of mentioned this website before. So the Assist website is a website that shows articulation agreements between California community colleges and CSU and UC, or public schools in the state of California. So what does that mean? So basically it means if I want to transfer to a 4-year institution from a 2-year institution, so if I want to transfer to a university from a community college, there are certain classes that I need to take for my major that make me eligible for transfer. So just like if I were going to go and start at a 4-year institution as a freshman and be there for a freshman sophomore, there are certain classes I need to take to complete the requirements for my major. Well, you're taking them at a California community college instead. So what they're saying is these are the classes you need to take at your California community college that will then transfer to our institution, and then you can come in at junior level. So the way Assist is going to work is I'm going to put in the academic year, and it should default to the current year. Sometimes you may have to play with the year a little bit. It may not necessarily come up depending on the school. I'm then going to start with my home school, which is Los Medanos College. And then I'm going to type in the name of the institution where I'm interested in transferring. So for example, say I'm interested in transferring to East Bay. You will see that it tells me that the 21-22 agreement is not available. And so it's going to default to the 2021 agreement, and that's fine. That just means they haven't updated it in Assist yet. Once I get into here, I'm going to double check to make sure that I am viewing the agreement based on major. This is what's going to show me major preparation classes that I need to have completed. I don't want it to default to department. Sometimes if you pick certain schools, for example, San Diego State is one of these schools that it always seems to default to department. They haven't updated their articulation agreements for a really long time in Assist. They are out of date. So if you go in and you notice it's defaulting to department, that's not the agreement you'll want to use. You'll want to go to an older year, or you'll want to use the school's website. You want to make sure it defaults to major. Then I'm going to go in and do a search. So let's say I want to do psychology at East Bay. I'm going to click on view agreement. And this is going to pull up the agreement in terms of what classes I need to have completed at LMC before I'm eligible for transfer. So number one, you'll notice there's a lot of writing at the top. I'm not going to go through this right now with you, but I do encourage you to go through and read it. A lot of the time this information is really important and pertinent to your transfer, so you'll want to make sure you spend some time reading through this information. What then you can then do is come down to, and what this is going to do on the left hand side, everything is going to be East Bay, and on the right hand side is going to be LMC. So I can then scroll down. So if I was a freshman and I was a psychology major at East Bay, these are the classes that I would be taking. I would be taking Introduction to Biology, I'd be taking general psychology, I'd be taking methods of investigation in psychology, and elements of probability and statistics. What that translates to at LMC is I have to have taken Bioscience 10, Psych 11, Psych 17, or Sociology 17, and Math 110. I need to have those classes to be complete to be able to transfer to that institution as a psychology major. And this is for East Bay. However, if I wanted to look at a different school, so for example, say I wanted to transfer to Santa Barbara. I'm going to look at UC Santa Barbara. And again, I'm going to look at psychology. They don't actually have psychology. They have biopsychology, or they have psychological and brain sciences. Well, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to do some more research, find out what that means. And then I'm going to look into this program, and I'm going to view the agreement. And again, I'm going to want to read everything up at the top. And then I'm going to scroll down, and it's going to tell me what this means. So all of my pre-major requirements, it's saying I need to complete in area 1. So I need to have Psych 11. I need to have Applied Calculus 1, or Calc and Analytics Geometry. So I need to have a little bit more higher level of math to go into the UC. I'm also need in area 2, I need to have, so these ones here, it says these are recommended to be completed prior to transfer. They are not a requirement. So that's interesting to note. You'll want to make sure that you look up to the top of it to determine which ones are required and which ones are recommended. Basically, you're going to have to take those classes at some point. So if you could take them here and it's a whole lot cheaper, then you might as well do it. But if that's a barrier for you in terms of being able to get out and transfer because you're missing one of those classes, they may not necessarily hold you to it. So they're saying that you need to have Chem 25 and 26, and there's the and, Bioscience 20 and 21, or just Chem 25 and 26. So they're saying you need to have basically these 4 classes. You need to have Chem 25, 26, Bioscience 20, and Bioscience 21 to be eligible. Area 3 is preparation for the major. A lot of this is also going to fall into your general education pattern. So if you're following IGETC or CSUGE, you may have already covered a lot of these classes as well. And so you'll want to look through, and a lot of these are going to be ORs. So I see a lot of ORs coming up in terms of what these classes look like. If you have more questions about what your actual school is looking at, you can absolutely meet with me and we can go through these articulation agreements together, or work with your counselor. Better yet, your counselor is going to be able to look through this agreement with you, figure out what classes you need, and they're going to actually be able to put it right into your educational plan for you so that you know what classes to complete. So Assist is a really helpful website. It can show you what general education or what major preparation classes you need, depending on the campus that you're looking to transfer to. However, let me see, is it on here? It's not. If you are looking at going into a CSU, there is a second option available to you. Instead of having to use Assist to look at those general education requirements or those major prep requirements, you can actually use your ADT. So again, if I was a psychology major and I'm completing an associate degree for transfer in psychology from LMC, I'm going to be able to use that to complete the requirements that I need for transfer. So these are the different associate degrees that are available for LMC. There's a slight difference between an associate's degree and associate's degree for transfer. So if your plan was to come to LMC, complete some classes and get your associate's degree and go out and start working in the world, then you would complete an associate's degree. If your intention was to come to LMC, complete some courses and then move on to a 4-year institution, that's an associate degree for transfer. And these are the majors that we offer ADTs in, this associate degree for transfer. So again, if I was a psychology major, I can find an associate degree for transfer in psychology. And this is going to tell me what classes I need to have completed in terms of my major preparation to be eligible for that associate degree for transfer. So I would have had to have completed all of my general education, so my CSUGE or my GETC, either or. And I need to have taken, this is at a date, this says Math 34, but this is Math 110. So it's Introduction to Statistics, Psych 11, Psych 17, Bioscience 10, Sociology 15, as well as Psych 10. So these are the classes I have to have completed to be able to obtain an associate degree for transfer in psychology. If you have a different major, then your degree might look slightly different. So if I'm applying to a UC, I need to have my general education complete, and I'm going to use Assist to figure out what my major preparation work is. If I'm applying to a CSU, I can look at I'm going to look at my general education pattern, and I can use either my ADT if I'm receiving an ADT, or I'm going to use Assist to figure out what the classwork is. So for example, if I was a nursing student, there is no ADT in nursing. So I would need to use Assist if I was looking to transfer as a nursing student, as opposed to a psychology student or a biology or sociology or anything like that. Any questions at this point?
Where could we apply for a tag?
Perfect. Let's talk about that. So I'm going to take you to the LMC website because I want you to be able to see a bunch of the different resources that are available on the website, and you can find out more information about that. So this is our home landing page. You can come here and find information. You can figure out how to connect with representatives. You can come to workshops like this one that you guys are already attending, which is great. You can also go to other workshops like the tag. So I'm going to click us to the workshop page, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to show you when the next tag workshop is coming up. So like you can see, there's lots of different workshops available. We are at this one right now, the Am I Ready to Transfer workshop. And then the next tag workshop, we have one coming up on Thursday, September the 16th, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I think that says 16th. Yes, at 2 p.m. And this is an in-person workshop. So if you happen to be on the LMC campus, you can come to the workshop in person and we'll talk about tag. Otherwise, the next online workshop is going to be on Wednesday, September the 22nd at 2 o'clock as well. And this one you can sign in through Zoom and we'll be talking about what tag looks like, how to complete the application, and what the deadlines are for the tag the tag application. So these are two great workshops that you can come to. If for some reason you were not able to come to either of those workshops, if I come up here to the top, you will see that there are archived transfer workshops. There is information on here on the UC tag and application. So if you wanted to just watch this video at your own time and your own place, you can absolutely do that as well. You wouldn't be able to ask questions and it wouldn't be live, but you can absolutely get the information that you're looking for. The other option is to go to the transfer planning page. And on the transfer planning page, you can come, or sorry, not transfer application page. And if I come down under UCs, I will be able to find more information about the transfer admission guarantee, including the transfer matrix, which talks about what are the requirements for tag, how do I complete them, and how do I get started on my application. So all of that information is available on this site. Also at the top of this site, you will find that there is information about how to apply as a UC student. Other things on the LMC website that I wanted to show you. Let's go back to the home page. So if you had a specific question about tag, or you had a specific question about UC Santa Barbara, you had a question about East Bay, you can come to this page, which is the University Representatives page, and this will tell you how to connect with the different different university representatives that we work with. So maybe you're interested in going to Chico and you want to find out more information, you can either send Lawrence an email, or you could book an appointment at one of his drop-in sessions. If you're interested in East Bay, you could visit, again, send Jamie an email, or you could go to one of her appointments and ask her those questions as well. So this page would be a great place to come to find out more about the different partnerships that we have with different universities and how to connect with those representatives. Also on this page, like I said, you'll have ways to attend a workshop. If you decided you think you needed a one-on-one appointment with me because you wanted to maybe research some different schools and what's available to you, or just make sure that you're really on track with where you need to be. Again, I'm not a counselor, so I don't do educational planning. I can't tell you exactly what classes to take, but I would be able to look at your transcripts and tell you if you're missing anything, or if you needed a little bit of extra support in terms of doing that research. You can come here and book a coaching appointment with me, and we'll go through that information together. The last thing on here I wanted to point out, which is Transfer on the Go. So Transfer on the Go is a Canvas course. So just like all of your other courses that you're currently taking at LMC, they live in Canvas. This is a course, unlike any other course, in that it doesn't cost you anything. There's homework, there's no deadlines, there's no assignments. Basically, it's just it's like a newsletter. So basically you sign up for Transfer on the Go, you'll get notifications about upcoming events, workshops, things that are happening, updates that are coming from the CSU and the UCs that you might be interested in, ways to connect with representatives if they happen to be coming on campus and so forth. So it's a really great way to stay in the know of what's happening in the world of transfer. So I strongly encourage you to sign up for the Transfer on the Go Canvas course if you are able to do so. All right. So how do I apply? So one, go to the website and find out what's going on. Number two is attend a workshop or a lab. So going back to this workshop page, we're up here at the top, which was talking about the workshops we were at, and then tag. If I keep scrolling down, I will also notice that there are workshops here for the UCs and CSUs. So the CSU application is going to open up on October the 1st and run through until November 30th. The UC application is actually open right now. You can now actually go in and start working on your UC application already, and it also will close on November 30th. Once you get into the application, you may be like, wow, I don't even know how to get started. I don't know how to answer these questions. I feel like I'm making mistakes. And that's why we are here. So these workshops, the way that these workshop labs work is each one is scheduled for 2 hours, both for the UCs and for the CSUs. First 45 minutes or hour or so is us walking you through the application, telling you how to get started, talking about common mistakes that students make, telling you how to answer certain questions, and we're going to walk you through all of that. These are usually presented by a CSU or a UC representative who's been able to come and present, but not always. Sometimes it's just me. And then the second hour is lab time. So you are actually on your computer, whether you come in person or you're doing it through Zoom, you'll be on your computer working on your application. And as questions come up, as concerns come up, as you get stuck on a certain page, we are there to answer your questions. So you can just either step into a breakout room with us if we're in Zoom, or just raise your hand and we'll come over and take a look over your shoulder and we'll help answer all those questions for you. So at no point are you alone at all in this application process. We are here every step of the way to answer your questions and make sure that you're following through with what you need to do. So again, all of these application workshops are going to be starting soon, the ones for TAG, because TAG month is September. You have to have your TAG submitted by September 30th. We'll have 2 more workshops coming up for TAG. And then the UC applications and CSU applications are going to start closer into October as well, because you can't start submitting them until then. Okay. Other things you need to know, get started early on your applications. So applications usually on average will take students maybe 3 or 4 hours to complete. The reason being is because you have to put all of your personal information in and so forth and answer other questions. And then basically you're going to be taking your transcripts from college and putting all of that information into your application. So every class you've ever taken in college, whether you took it when you were concurrently enrolled in high school or since you've come to LMC, you're going to take every single class you've taken, both at LMC and any other community colleges you've attended, and put those into your application with the name of the class, the course number, your units, the grade, and so forth. So you're going to want to make sure you include all of that information. So this can take some time. The UC application, in addition to having all of those questions that they're going to ask, also has some essay elements. You're going to be writing some short answer questions to submit with your application. We will be talking about what those questions look like in the UC application workshop. So I encourage you to come to that workshop if you want to learn a little bit more about what those PIQ questions look like, or personal insight questions look like. So come to one of those, but you don't want to put this off until the last minute. You're going to be coming up on midterms soon, and then finals and Thanksgiving, and so many different things are happening in the months of October and November. You don't want to procrastinate this until the last minute. You want to get started on them early. So usually what I encourage students to do is think of September as TAG month. So if you're going to be applying for TAG, you gotta get it done in September. Deadline is September 30th. Think of October as CSU month. So get all of your CSU applications in the month of October. And then in November, you can focus on your UC application. So if you focus on it that way, then you'll be able to knock out all of your applications in a timely manner. If you are applying to the UCs, make sure you start working on your personal insight questions now. Like I said, we're going to be talking about those in the UC application workshops. If you've got questions about what those look like, you can absolutely do that. Also on this application site that I was showing you, so the transfer application, if I come down under here, I can find the personal insight questions. This will said, if you are an EOPS student, you sorry, everybody still here? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Every time I try to record something, this Zoom kicks me out halfway through. So sorry. All right, we're going to continue on, but unfortunately that recording is not going to work. Or maybe, oh no, we're still recording. Yay. Okay, well, those of you who are watching, it kicked me out of Zoom. I love Zoom. Okay, so like I was saying, applications. So you will get 4 free CSU and 4 free UCs if you are an EOPS student, or if you become eligible for the fee waiver. The fee waiver is built into the application. So I can't tell you if you are eligible for the fee waiver or not. Basically, what you're going to do is go in and complete your application. It's going to ask you for some financial information, usually from 2 years ago. It'll ask you about your income, your household income, and household number of people in your household from 2 years ago. You'll input that information. And from based off of that information, it'll tell you whether or not you're eligible for the fee waiver. So if you are, awesome, you get 4 free UCs and 4 free CSUs. If not, it's $70 per application for both the CSUs and for the UCs. So then you may want to think carefully about how many schools you want to apply to based on, how independently wealthy you happen to be. But that said, we do encourage you to just apply broadly. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to apply to as many different schools as you're interested in, as many different schools as you can afford to apply to, so that way you have a lot of different options available to you, so that even if you, heaven forbid, don't get into your dream school, maybe you'll get into your second choice and you'll have those opportunities available to you. So the applications themselves is for Cal State Apply. So this is for if you are interested in applying into the CSU system, any of those 23 campuses, you'll come to Cal State Apply. At the moment, the application is not open. Like I said, it doesn't open until October the 1st, but you would come down here under the drop down and you would look for it to say, oh, you can't see my screen anymore. Hang on 1 second. I'm still talking like you can see my screen. Okay, now you can see my screen. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. So you come down here to the drop down and you would see that it would say fall of 2022. At the moment, it's not available, but eventually it will be starting on October the 1st. So this is where you'll come to complete your application for Cal State Apply. For the UC application, you can actually go in and start working on your UC application now. First, you'll go in and create yourself something called a TAP account, which is the Transfer Admission Planner. You can go in and create yourself an account for that. That TAP account that you create will actually pull into your TAG application if you're applying for TAG, as well as into the UC application as well. So you can start working on that now. UC applications you can't submit until November the 1st, but you can at least start working on those. So let's look at timeline. So I apologize, this is last year's timeline, but it's very similar for this year. I'm still working on updating the one for this year, but basically this is kind of where we're at. So your UC application, like I mentioned, you can go in and start working on that now. Make sure that if this is your last year, make sure you submit an application for priority registration. Deadline for that is coming up very soon in the middle of September. But by applying for this priority registration means that you're going to get an earlier registration date in the spring, so that way you'll be sure to get all the classes that you need that will make you eligible for transfer. The TAG application starts, like I said, it started on September 1st, and you have until September 30th to complete that TAG application. Then the CSU application is going to open on October the 1st, same date as your FAFSA, your California Dream Act application is going to open. So you'll want to go in on the 1st, do your FAFSA, your California Dream Act, and you can start working on your CSU application at the same time. The UC application is open now, but you can't submit until beginning on November the 1st. Well, on November 1st, the application submission period begins. So you can start submitting your UC application as of November 1st. Also in November, you'll be registering for your spring classes. So make sure you've met with your counselor before then to get your academic plan on file and you know exactly what classes you need to make you eligible for transfer. And then by November 30th, you will have submitted both your UC and your CSU application. So like I said, many of you are going to have units still in progress. You're going to have classes still in progress. You don't have your 60 units yet. So this fall, you're going to be taking some classes. In the spring, you're going to be taking some classes. So it's really important that you record all of that information in your application. So you're going to say, these are the classes I'm currently taking. These are the classes I had planned to take. When you submit your application, you're going to indicate all that information. Then in January, probably somewhere around the 1st or the 2nd week of January, you're going to get an email from both the CSU and the UC system, if you've applied to both, asking you to go in and update your application. You're going to go back into your application and say, okay, I finished my fall term. These are the grades that I received for fall. And now these are the classes I'm taking in spring. Once you've done all of those updates, you're going to resubmit your application. And at that point, the universities are going to start to review your application and make their decisions. Make sure you submit your application for graduation. So the petition for graduation is one, to be able to walk the stage of graduation. Hopefully we'll get to do that this year. We haven't, unfortunately, for the last 2 years, but hopefully COVID will go away. The Delta variant will go away and we will be able to walk for graduation. So make sure you put in your petition to do that. You will also be petitioning for any associate degrees you are receiving. So if you're getting an ADT or an associate degree in any liberal arts, or if you're getting an ADT in biology or whatever you're getting your associate's degree in, you'll want to include that in your petition. And also if you're completing CSUGE or IGETC, you'll also include that. This is one form for all of these things. So even if you decide you're not going to walk the stage of graduation, but you want to make sure you get your associate's degree, you'll want to make sure you have that form submitted by the March 1st deadline. Then after that, you'll start to get your acceptance letters from all the different schools. So beginning usually in March, you'll start to get letters from the CSUs informing you whether or not you've been accepted into their campus. And then, like I said, if you've completed your FAFSA and your California Dream Act, you should also start receiving your letters that'll tell you how much money it's going to cost you to go to school there, basically. Usually later into April, you'll start to get your acceptance letters from the UC campuses. Those acceptance letters will usually come out in April. And so you'll have a little bit of time to look over all of your different acceptances and decide which one's going to be the best one for you. You need to submit your intent to register by May 1st for the CSU. So if you plan on going to a CSU, you will need to let them know by May the 1st. And then by June 1st, you need to let the UCs know. So you'll have all of your decisions to you by the end of April. You'll be reviewing everything, looking over your letters of how much your tuition costs are going to be and so forth, making your decisions about where your dream school is. And then by June 1st for the UCs and by May 1st for the CSUs, you will have sent in your intent to register. We will then have our graduation ceremony. I don't know what date it's going to be this year yet. Like I said, hopefully in person, but it'll be sometime around the end of May, usually that third week of May. And then by June 30th, you need to make sure that all of your transcripts have been submitted. CSUs and UCs will vary from campus to campus. Most important thing you need to know after you submit your applications is you need to be checking your email all the time. Make sure that you use an email address that you have ready access to. Make sure it's an email address that you're checking on a regular basis. Some schools are going to write you and ask you to submit your transcripts early. Some schools are going to write you and ask you to create a student portal. Some schools are going to write you and ask you to do a supplemental application and require more information. They are going to send you a checklist of things that you need to complete. It's really, really important that you're checking your email on a regular basis and completing everything by the deadline. Unfortunately, every year we have students who apply to a school, get accepted to the school, don't check their email, don't submit their paperwork and their supplemental applications and everything else by the deadlines, and they lose their place at that school because they haven't completed what they need to do. So once you hit submit on your application, it's not over. You will have other things that you need to complete. So it's really important that you're following through with all of those. So all that information. So if you still have questions and you're not sure if you have all the right classes or if you're on the right track, number one, book yourself a counseling appointment, sit down with your counselor, make sure you've got the right classes and you're going to be completing everything on time. Like I said, if your plan is to transfer next fall, all of your coursework needs to be done by the end of spring. All those 60 units, all that major prep, all those general education requirements. If you have other questions about researching schools, making sure that you're on track, what that process looks like, you can absolutely book a coaching appointment with me. We can sit down and look through that together. And then if you have specific questions about specific schools, you can reach out to the university representatives and ask them those questions as well. So that is all my information. Let me pause our recording.